Hello, Asa. I just had a freaking breakthrough, and you're going to get to hear me ramble about it. I'm just accepting that none of this will make sense. So I've been having trouble with my program running way too slow. So I did this long experiment that took about 2 days on my personal computer, and I can do in 15 minutes now what took me that long before. So that number of minutes divided by 15 minutes means that it's 192 times faster. Anyway, so because of this, I figured that not only can I do some of the things I was testing before, but I'm able to test a bunch of stuff. For instance, I've known and got programmed working reflection of the oil droplets, where the oil droplets will sometimes bounce off of a wall and will sometimes pass right through it. I programmed that into the simulation. And then I was able to run 10,000 trials of that with the starting positions randomized. And you just to see where all of these 10,000 different experiments end up, and then you can kind of plot where the hot spots of where locations are, where they tend to be, in kind of a cool way. So first I'm going to show you this video, which is a PhET simulation. I think you've done PhET physical simulations there. University of Colorado has a bunch of computer programs that simulate physics things. I've got one set up for a wave quantum tunneling through a barrier where about half of it ends up on one side, half of it on the other. The thing to note about this graph is the height of the graph at any point is the probability of finding the particle there. It doesn't make much sense, but just know it's the probability of the particle being there. Why it's probabilistic, we don't care. All right, so note here, height is the probability to density, and right here is the barrier. So this is it evolving with time. We can see that part of it has indeed passed through and part of it has reflected. And so both of these have around a 50% chance of finding the particle. So the particle is basically a coin flip of being on this side or this side of the screen. So again, ignoring confusing, weird, metaphysical questions that raises, given that is the real world at a lower, deeper level, this next thing is super cool. So basically what I did is I had my particles start in a position that was distributed in this normal pattern, and it hits a barrier right here, as you can see, and it actually ends up going in two directions, half of it going forward and half of it being reflected back, which is very similar to this whole playing out, which is absolutely marvelous. That here we can see one form come in, and then two about half as tall forms come out in opposite directions. And I recreated it with my program. And the interesting thing about this is this program was not modeled off of quantum mechanics or any underlying physical thing like that. This is literally just those oil droplet, the bouncing oil droplet experiments I've been doing modeled in a computer. And we see pretty much the same result. The thing to note here is that each point here isn't the probability of finding it somewhere per se. This is actually just a histogram of where each particle was during the trials. So anyway, this is basically a ton of experiments plotted of oil drop simulations. And this is a mathematical model of the underlying physical truth of our world. And they look the same. Like I said, Asa, we're going to ignore all the metaphysical impacts of this stuff and just appreciate the fact that a system that basically I was just told, hey, this system exhibits quantum properties, is then exhibiting more of those quantum properties as I poke and prod it and simulate it with a computer. And now I'm just super excited. In addition to this, I meet with the professor tomorrow morning. So I'm actually really excited, especially since I made those GIFs. I can just say, hey, look, here's a thing that's easy to digest, and I don't have to like wade through code to show you. I can just say, hey, didn't have time to write a paper, look at this and let me explain to you while you're watching it. I am floored. I had spent like 2 weeks trying to get the simulation to run at any appreciable speed so I could do a lot more data crunching, and it worked, and now I can see it and I'm watching it over and over. I'm sure you see me not looking at the camera because it worked, and it is showing results that are much more similar to the physical reality than I expected. So Asa, sorry for this long rambly video. That's it.